Well, hey, all you salty dogs, how you doing? We're getting ready to dive back into this floor pan job out here today in the shop with Mr. Dexter. There he is. How you doing, buddies? And we just got another little piece of the project here. Oh, yeah, right there. That just showed up. And I'm not going to talk about that yet, but it is having to do with what's in this box right here. And when you guys find that out, I think you're really going to like it, but that's going to be a spoiler for later on. Anyways, let's go over here and see what's going on with the Jeep. For those of you that maybe are just tuning in, I'm working on this 80 Jeep CJ7 project. And I just picked up this tub, and on this tub, it has got some rotten out floor panels here. Now, back to cutting. What I'm doing here is just cutting this outside of the body panel into strips here. That's the panel that's going away. We're not reusing that piece, so I just want to get it cut down into strips. And then I'll take the vice grips here and just start bending it up into kind of like a taco shape where I can work it back and forth. There's just a series of spot welds that go onto that flange there, and I want to preserve that flange. And so I'm just working on breaking those spot welds off there by rolling them back and forth, working them around, and just trying to trim down through the outer layer of metal. I don't want to trim into that flange at all, and I was pretty successful in doing that. I hadn't done anything like this in quite a while there, so feeling pretty good about how that turned out. This piece actually went pretty quickly. What's crazy to me is seeing all this footage recorded right around Christmas. I think this is just a couple of days before Christmas there. I'd been working since this summer back in the trucking industry, making money so I could afford to do some of this stuff. And man, it's kind of hard to see this because I had gained so much weight while I was out there. And I'm like really allergic to gluten, and so being on the road, like with the pandemic and everything, like I could not get good food anywhere. So yeah, it's just like, man, I couldn't believe how much weight I'd gained rewatching this footage. Now that I'm off the road and I'm back on my boat now, you know, this is a couple of months later that I'm doing the editing on this. It's just kind of crazy to look at myself there and realize how much of a difference it is already, and kind of feeling bad about that. But, you know, that's just kind of life. Sometimes you make sacrifices so you can do other things, and in this case, it allowed me to get my Jeep quite a bit of work done to it. Oh, yeah. Those are just welds on the edges. That's good to know, because what that means is when I go to replace this in there, I don't have to drill through this. It just welds to the surface. So that's good news. Set that piece aside so we can save it. And now I'll bring this in so you guys can see. There's that edge. You got that seam sealer on there. I gotta get that all scraped off of there. But we're pretty close to having a repair panel now. Now what I have to decide is where to make the cut on this. And I think I'm gonna cut it first across the top of here. So we'll go ahead and do that now. Are we out of juice? I think we're out of juice. We are out of battery. And of course we're not done yet. That means it's break time until the batteries charge. All right. Oh yeah. You see how that's going to go down in there, and for what it looks like, yeah, that'll more than take care of the bad floor we've got in here. And sorry about the background noise. There's some guys working on a APU on a truck over here. It's their shop, so I can't really tell them to stop. So we're just going to deal with it. Oh, I can't wait to drive this thing. That is going to be so awesome. And I wanted black in the worst way when I was out looking at tubs. I mean, there was a green one I could have bought. It's like, I haven't had good luck with green vehicles. Bad accident that I got in that put me out of the Navy was in a green vehicle, and I've just never really had good luck with green cars, so I'm going to stay away from them, stick to my black. And then here we go. So we have the floor all marked out. Now what I'm going to do when I cut this out is I'm actually going to come well inside this line and then cut inside. And then I know I'm going to have to remove all the way to the outside over here. So we're just going to go ahead and cut that all the way out. Dress that edge. And then that way we can get this edge underneath. And so that's the big part of this in the beginning here. We need to be able to start getting that in there to fit it. And then we have to kind of start bringing the pieces together. And then we're just going to walk the fitment of the pieces. If you cut too far, the problem with that is you tend to wind up, creating a gap that's too wide to weld, so you're having to cut more out, put a filler panel in there. It turns into a real big mess, so I really like to avoid that. I just rather as few welds in this as possible, get the piece back in there. I think we should be able to do that. And this just starts a slow process of just making the hole bigger and bigger and bigger, and a lot of people might wonder why it is that I don't just, mark the hole and then cut the thing to size right away. And the reason for that is you want to kind of go into one of these projects taking a little bit out at a time and working your way out to the edge rather than just chopping a big piece out and then all of a sudden the patch panel you have isn't big enough anymore, and that creates a real problem. At this point here, we're just using that same tack breaking method that I was using before. Just hammering and dolly a little bit to get the sides even back up. And I'm really trying to preserve that outside edge so I don't have to do any painting on it. And ultimately, you'll see in a minute here why that wasn't successful. But just removing a little bit at a time, just trying to kind of push back out. Down in here, we got all this removed. That one tack right there was a little sticky, so you saw me dolly that out at the end right there, but we got her through. She tore through a little bit, though. Nothing I can't weld up, though. And this here, that's just coming off. I'm not sure if I'm going to make the cut up here, maybe, because this surface will be a little easier to grind and finish than that, so I'll probably do that cut right there. And right now, what I need to do next is get cut down the rest of the way across here, get that last piece out from underneath here. And I am going to have to replace the bottom of this, so it's a good thing that over here somewhere, sitting behind the ratchets, this one here is in pretty good shape, so we'll cut that off, weld that in. Now I'm just getting into working on this corner, and that corner is a bit of a bear. It's just hard to get into. It's hard to get a good angle on the grinder. You kind of lean over upside down in there to work on it. And it's one of those things where if you screw it up, it's real bad because you're running up against the edge of your material there, and you can overshoot it pretty easy. So I was really having to be careful and take my time to work this out of here and just go in. That chisel's a big savior there. I actually wound up cutting the flange itself with the chisel rather than trying to do it with the grinder, because I couldn't get the grinder in there tight enough to make that cut from the top side and didn't really have the clearance from the bottom. And so that last little cut through the flange on the edge of the floor piece there, that was done with the chisel. Well, hey guys, good morning. It is the day after Christmas, Boxing Day for all you Canadians out there. Anyways, I'm back at the shop here today, getting ready to dive back into this, and so let me show you what the plan for today's. What we got to do here is we're going to go ahead and make a cut along the top of this lip, cut down through, and then get the bottom of this cut off over here, just to get this floor opened up just a little bit more. And then we're going to need to get this piece trimmed to size. I want to go straight across the side here so we can avoid getting into that. So that's what we're going to wind up doing. Now this piece I'm cutting here, that's the bottom of the A-pillar, and that's the end that was all rusted out there. And I'm just trying to go through and cut the layer of material on the inside, not cut through the outer skin there. And so I'm working it as gently as I can, and then you'll see in a second here how that doesn't quite work out for me. It was starting to come apart, starting to, and then yep, there it failed. No, that's not good. At least we found it now. You can see the whole side right there just ripped, which means that metal was just super thin. So gonna have to weld that back in, so we'll just go ahead and cut it out. Oh yeah, oh yeah. Look at that, that is just destroyed. Absolutely kaput. So, it'd be good to get that taken care of. Backwards. Now we can get that all the way over the edge. Kind of get an idea where it's going to fit. So what we'll do is go in with soapstone. Now we've traced that. Now I'm going to go in and cut closer to that, about right there. And then up here we're going to go just kind of, I'm going to have to see on this side. For right now, I'm going to split it down here. What I'm doing here is just taking the little remainder of the tack welds that are on there off, just getting that ground flush. There's also a bunch of that seam sealer on there I still need to clean up. And just getting this because we're starting to get where I need to get a little tighter on the fitment. And that's kind of the last little bit of cleanup I had to do on this piece. And it's amazing how easy it is to work this sheet metal while it's still in this configuration. I mean, she just bends so easy, but then once you put it together, you've got a car. Okay, so that's a lot better. That's getting a lot closer. Now the lip on this is just a little bit of wavy in here. I don't know if you guys could see that, just from the prying on it to get it apart. And so I want to get this where it's all in plane and looking good. So how I'm doing that is I got this piece of angle iron here. We'll work it down. And just like that, it's looking pretty good. All right, the next thing we need to start doing here is working on this edge here. So I'm going to go ahead, make the cut across the face. We're going to make the cut across here, but then we're going to wrap it up on top. And then the reason we're doing that is so I can make this line here fairly precise. So, and then once we have it fit front and back, then we can go ahead and cut our side, because the side of this thing, where's the patch panel? There it is right there. The side of that thing isn't a perfect straight line. And so it's going to have to be custom fit to go kind of in and around there, so that's going to take a little bit of fitting, but we're getting mighty close. Hey, it's a shop cat. How you doing, shop cat? Oh, yes. Watch out, Mr. Keith. You don't want to be over here for this. This metal in the floor here was just so completely rotten. I mean, half of it was just tearing apart as I pulled it up. I thought I was going to have to fight with it a lot more than I did, but just the chisel, just run right through those tack welds because everything on top of it was just so flaked. And being the driver's side floor like this, yeah, it's going to be a little bit worse than anything else in the vehicle is, because that's where your feet are. And so your feet track moisture into the vehicle, and if you don't get that moisture out of the vehicle, it just sits there and messes up the floors. And I'm guessing this Jeep at one point had carpet in it. It's usually the culprit on something like this where you have carpet in there. The carpet absorbs the moisture off of your feet. That's why it's a really good idea to have those rubberized floor liners, or doing like what I'll be doing on this and going back in with bed liner when it's done. And here is the big cut. That is the final cut for the back side of this patch panel. So being really careful when I'm doing this. All right, guys, here we are. Got this all fitted in here. She's fitting up pretty good. I need to adjust that front edge just a touch more so she'll line up where she needs to be, and then everything should go in here. But she'll pop into place right now. I could weld it as it is, but I'm going to work on it just a little bit more and get that all set. I also got to get all this wire wheeled off and cleaned up real good, and then we'll be ready to weld her in. And then I got to put the body mount in underneath here. I want to have to cut that body mount out. Luckily, over here on the table, I have the one I saved out of that other piece, so we'll weld that up in there, and that'll get us totally taken care of. But we're damn close. I really love this Lincoln Power MiG 256 I've got. I bought this thing back in 2011, and it is just an outstanding machine. Well, here she is. She is in the shop, and we're close to going back together. I mean, just looking at one tub here next to the other one. This one's in a lot better shape, and a lot of people are probably like, well, why are you going through all the trouble to replace this? Why not just fix the stuff that's wrong with this? Well, I was gonna. The thing is, I'd be doing that corner over there. I'd be doing this whole side here because all this is just mashed up, and I'd like this thing to be nice and painted. That one there, I mean, is almost perfect, so that's going to make a huge difference. I could start doing the disassembly on this tomorrow and getting her in. So they didn't have the stuff I normally get, so we're going to give this Permatex rust treatment a try. Spray it all over everything on the floor here. We're going to see how that goes. What this stuff is, it's a chemical compound that goes in and kills any rust that's remaining. It goes in and bonds with the rust that's there and stops it in its tracks and completely neutralizes it, because if you didn't use this, what would happen? If you just painted over the top of this after wire wheeling it off, that bit of rust that remains there would continue to rust, and it'd just bubble up from underneath the paint. So by spraying this all over it, it completely kills that rust, and you can really see it go to town on this sheet here on the patch panel, because it's coming in, and you notice that color is turning from red to black, and so as soon as it makes contact, it's killing that rust. You'll see the rust turns sort of a blackish purple color, and that's how you know this stuff's working, and it seems to have worked pretty good. Oh yeah, check this out. Painless wiring harness. It'd be so nice to have brand new wiring in this thing. What I'm getting ready to do is I got to check the hole over in the firewall there, make sure that plug fits in it and everything, because sometimes they change those plugs over the years. And it looks like that's going to fit in there no problem, so feeling really good about that. Really super pleased with the quality of this harness. I mean, everything, it's just brand spanking new. In the past, I have rebuilt wiring harnesses for vehicles, and let me tell you, I am so looking forward to not having to do that with this. Just plug everything in and be done. Be done. It'd be so nice. Anyone who's been through a wiring harness will understand why. For those of you that haven't, it's because wiring harnesses, when they get old, are nothing but problems, and so having this painless wiring harness, good to go. Well, hey guys, I am sitting in the Jeep. This is fantastic. I got everything cleaned out of the front seat. Got her pulled in the shop here. Got most of the stuff pulled out of the inside, and getting ready to start blowing it apart in the morning. And that's a really big deal. So I'm excited about that. I mean, we're so close right now to having this thing going back together. I mean, I start the disassembly, she'll just fly right apart. And then within a couple hours, I should have that other tub, you know, sitting back on here and bolted down and going together. So I am so stoked, man. This is amazing. So I feel really good about this. Here's the other little baby I bought for this thing, this Power Master alternator. And that right there, that's a 140 amp alternator. So that ought to give me some good charging for the Jeep. So I will eventually be running a dual battery system in this. I have the wrong battery tray right now for the duals, so I'm going to have to buy another one of those. Not a big deal. I can do that at a later point. But for right now, got pretty much everything we need to get her put together. So that's, I mean, there's a couple of things. I need to get a fuel pump solenoid. I need to get a couple of, battery cables. I need to get a couple of things along those lines. But for the most part, and then let me show you another thing that's going to be a pain here is we got the top of the dash here. Well, I have to figure out how to make this piece here bolt into that piece right there. And so I'm going to have to cut that out and weld in a new piece there, which will allow me to run these defroster vents. So that's the only thing really that's hanging over me right now. I got to get that set up. But other than that, yeah, we're moving right along. Anyways, guys, I am beat. I've been out here for like 8 hours today working on this thing. I am ready to call it a day and go home. So I think we're going to call it good for this episode. We'll continue on the floor in the next one. We'll see you later. Bye.